Fruits and vegetables. Dessert applications, fruits can be macerated with sweetener to draw out moisture and intense flavors, stewed or pureed, roasted, grilled, or charred. Cooked and cooled fruits tend to show the ability to thicken due to the release of pectin and cooked starches that help bind and give mouthfeel to foods. Fruits can be used in gels, folded in with cream, mixed in frozen desserts, dipped in chocolate, made into a coulis or a sauce. Include enzyme-enhanced lacto-fermented vegetables, fruits, beverages, and condiments on a regular basis. Lacto-fermentation is the traditional method of food preservation. It is done without freezers or canning machines. Instead, petrifying bacteria are suppressed until enough lactobacilli, beneficial bacteria, are produced to preserve the food for many months. The lactobacilli also enhances the digestibility of the vegetables, increasing vitamin levels, produce enzymes, and offer antibiotic and anti-carcinogenic substances, and support the growth of healthy flora in our intestines. Probiotics are healthy gut bacteria, building the good guy's defense system. If you introduce fermented foods consistently for the first time, you may experience a die-off as the bacterial balance in your gut changes. The bad bacteria, as they die, can fight back and release toxins. The key is to make these dietary changes slowly if you start feeling ill. Don't push beyond your limits or you could be doing even more damage. The problem with processed condiments, dips, dressings, marinades, and spreads comes down to the ingredients. They're loaded with sugar or high fructose corn syrup, the wrong kind of salt, processed soy, processed vegetable oils, preservatives, MSG, and other unhealthy or toxic ingredients. When you make your own homemade salad dressings and sauces, like salad dressings, barbecue sauce, ketchup, mayonnaise, and cream soups, you're replacing all those highly processed, unhealthy, nutritionally devoid foods with whole ingredients, good fats, and nutrition. The brassica vegetables. This family of vegetables includes cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, kale, mustard greens, collard greens, radishes, and bok choy. If you are iodine efficient, consider steaming or boiling them first. Otherwise, enjoy cooked, raw, or fermented. Steamed spinach smoothie pucks. Spinach is one power-packed green vegetable that is great to add to smoothies. It's rich in fiber, zinc, B vitamin, vitamin A and C, folate, calcium. There's 115 milligrams per half cup. Because it's high in flavonoids, it protects your body from free radicals, particularly in the colon. Spinach is also brain food. Studies show that it helps maintain brain function, mental clarity, and memory. Unlike kale, which tends to be bitter, spinach has a pretty neutral flavor and doesn't take away from the sweetness of our smoothies. Unfortunately, as nutrient-dense as spinach is, it also has a lot of oxalic acid. So to steam it and ingest it will remove the oxalic acid. Steamed spinach smoothie pucks. 1/3 of a cup of steamed spinach equals approximately 1 full cup of raw spinach. So 36 ounces of fresh baby spinach washed and half a cup of pure water. Line a sheet pan with parchment paper and prepare to steam the spinach. Place as much spinach as you can fit into your steamer or your pot or colander over boiling water and cover the spinach and steam for 1 minute and remove from the heat. Cool in an ice bath and then squeeze out excess water. Pack the steamed spinach into 1/3 cup measuring cups and tap it onto the parchment sheet to create the same size shaped discs. Then you can freeze these for 4 to 6 hours into solid pucks and then store in the freezer in an airtight container. Add 1 smoothie puck to any smoothie for a boost of good-for-you greens with a lot of absorbable calcium. Dehydration is nutritious, has easy preparation and storage. Dehydration is the process of removing water from food through circulating warm or hot air. Sometimes salt curing is used to draw water out of the food too. The process by which salt pulls out water is called desiccation. Drying is the oldest and most traditional food preservation method. However, drying is one of the easiest and simplest ways to preserve your harvest. Then you can eat those foods year round. If you use a low enough temperature when drying, around 115 degrees Fahrenheit, the food's naturally present nutrition remains, specifically the vitamins and enzymes. High heat canning or high heat dehydrating destroys sensitive vitamins and enzymes. This is really most important when dehydrating fruits, vegetables, herbs, and cultured foods. Higher temperatures is used when dehydrating meats or eggs. When dehydrating, you slice your food, lay it out on a tray, turn on the dehydrator, flip the pieces over as needed, and then the foods are dry. The Excalibur dehydrator is an example of an electric horizontal airflow unit. If your oven goes down to 150 degrees Fahrenheit, you can use it for most dehydrating. This temperature will be too hot for herbs and will not preserve vitamins and enzymes in fresh food. Use parchment paper for wet things like pureed fruits. A high-powered food processor or blender is great to help powering in the ways that it makes food more uniform so you can reconstitute it consistently. It reduces the amount of space you need to store the dried food. It removes the pokey edges of dried foods, therefore preventing them from puncturing your vacuum seal pouches. Vacuum seal foods last at room temperature for a year or more. As long as the foods are fully dried, the vacuum sealer removes all the air and seals the food up so that the moisture can't get back in. This keeps the food safe from two of the major enemies of preserved foods, moisture and air. Food Saver vacuum seal plastic is BPA free. To prevent discoloration, you can dip certain fruits and vegetables in citrus water. Dipping is always optional. Foods that discolor when exposed to air and therefore are good candidates for dipping are apples, peaches, pears, nectarines, apricots, potatoes, mushrooms, cucumbers, zucchini, parsnip, and turnips. To create your citrus water, use a ratio of 1/4 cup of lemon juice to 2 cups of water. Fully submerge the cut fruit and vegetables in the citrus water for 8 to 10 minutes and then drain and proceed with drying. Add to cookies, granola bars, granola, porridge, yogurt bowls. Soak dried fruit pieces in water to reconstitute and then blend them to make a fruit sauce. Serve with roasted meats over ice cream with yogurt. During the blending, use a little water for a paste consistency or more water for sauce. Make a fermented fruit sauce or paste for toast or pancakes. Reconstitute dried fruit pieces by soaking in water until soft, then blend into a paste or a sauce. Adjust the water accordingly to your desired results. Per quart, add 1/4 cup of whey and 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt. Cover the jar with a lid or an airlock and let ferment at room temperature for 12 to 24 hours. Reserve in the fridge until use. Fruit leather, otherwise known as fruit roll-ups, a sweet treat. When you make your own fruit leather, you save money over buying it. Plus, you make it healthier by sweetening less or not at all and avoiding preservatives. Fruit leathers are a particularly wonderful way to preserve seeded berries. If you were to dry the berries whole, seeds make eating them not so enjoyable. But pureeing into a leather breaks down those seeds and it works out great. To create fruit leather, process by peeling, seeding, and coring, occasionally blanching or steaming, as if you're adding rhubarb or perhaps some steamed greens. To make fruit leather, you'll blend fruits to a pureed consistency, pour it on a lined dehydrator tray, and dry. You can sweeten more or add spices if you want. Choose ripe fruits, cut out any spoiled parts. Avocados and melons are not recommended for fruit leathers. Berries, citrus, crab apples, and guava are recommended to use in combination with other fruits and not on their own. Though you can combine just about any fruit and end up with delicious fruit leather, some suggestions are pear ginger, berry banana, strawberry banana, blackberry apple, apple cinnamon, tropical, which is pineapple, mango, and banana, rhubarb and berry, banana orange, apple plum, or a mix of all berries. Honey is the best sweetener as it will not crystallize. Add to taste. To yield 4 cups of fruit puree, use 4 to 6 small apples, cored and quartered. Peeling is an option. 4 to 6 small medium bananas, peeled. A heaping tablespoon of cinnamon, and toppings such as chopped nuts or shredded coconut. Blend the apples, bananas, and cinnamon together in a food processor or blender and spread 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 inch thick on lined dehydrator sheets. Keep edges a bit thicker in the middle and sprinkle on toppings. Dry at 115 degrees Fahrenheit, and you dry until the center is no longer wet and the edges peel easily. Store in closed containers with pieces of parchment paper between. To dry vegetables, do a simple pre-treatment like peeling, shredding, slicing, or dicing. Plus, you can blanch vegetables to hold their color. Dark leafy greens should be blanched for 3 minutes to reduce oxalic acid, then cooled in ice water and drained away. Peeling is optional on root vegetables such as carrots or potatoes. If you can eat the skin, you don't have to peel. Make uniform cuts or slices to facilitate efficient and even drying times. The smaller the pieces, the faster the drying times. To preserve nutrition and color of dried vegetables, dry at 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Lay out the pieces so they're not touching. Give good airflow around each piece and get a good start at drying. For vegetable powders, choose firm and ripe vegetables, dark leafy greens, garlic, onions, carrots, beets, or tomatoes. Vegetables that are ideal for cooking, then mashing and drying are winter squash, pumpkin, potatoes of all kinds, carrots, parsnips, turnips, and beets. If any parts are bruised, cut them out. Avoid overly matured vegetables because they take on an undesirable flavor and texture when past their peak. To dry mashed or pureed vegetables, spread out on the dehydrator trays lined with parchment paper, 1/8 to 1/4 inch thick, and as well keep the edges thicker so they won't be brittle by the time the leather is dry. Dehydrated green powder. For those who don't appreciate warm or wilted greens, or if you have a particularly large leafy bounty to preserve, consider drying the greens into powder. You've now got concentrated iron, magnesium, potassium, vitamin K, vitamin C, vitamin E, phytonutrients, and small amounts of omega-3 fatty acids. It's a powerhouse of nutrients in a little jar. First, gather the greens, kale, collard, spinach, chard, etc. Wash thoroughly and remove woody or pulpy stems. Steam accordingly to instructions above. Once steamed, drain well and transfer all leaves to the dehydrator trays. It is okay if they touch. Leaves shrink up to 1/4 of their size when dehydrated, so there's lots of room for movement. Just don't stack on top of each other. Sprinkle a tablespoon in your morning smoothie. Add to salads for a boost of flavor and nutrition. Create your own herbal mix out of green powder, other herbs, and dried zest. Add to soups for extra seasoning. Or get creative and mix into meatloafs, pastas, hamburgers, frittatas, stews, and chilies. The main thing to remember is to dry herbs at a low temperature, ideally around 95 degrees Fahrenheit. This preserves the volatile nutrients and medicinal properties of your herbs. Even if you're only going to use them for cooking, they'll be more colorful and flavorful when dried at low temperature. Depending on size and temperature, it's about 12 to 18 hours of drying time. To create your dried herbs, most of the time you won't do any pre-treatments. After the herbs are dry, you can use a small blender or a food processor to chop them up into smaller pieces. However, if you're preserving garlic or roots for medicinal properties, you might do some peeling or slicing. Storage times will vary, but herbs in optimal condition, fully dry and stored at room temperature in airtight containers should last for a year and probably more. Herbs do much better in the dark and cool. If storing at room temperature or in fluctuating temperatures, the length of time decreases. To create dried greens, the main pre-treatments are soaking and cooking or sprouting. Before drying, choose from these basic pre-treatment options. 1. Soak or ferment and cook your whole grains. 2. Soak and sprout your whole grains. Or 3. Mash and season your cooked or sprouted grains, for example, to make crackers. Let cooked grains cool significantly before drying so the grains are not clumped together and mushy, but rather individual, distinct grains for better drying and better results when reconstituting. There are two ways to reconstitute vegetables. One allows you to reconstitute and cook in the same step, and the other requires you to reconstitute first before cooking. While you cook, toss your dried vegetables in a soup, stew, or casserole with sufficient liquid, at least 1 cup for each 1 cup of dried vegetable, and let the vegetables plump and hydrate while cooking. Rehydrate first, then cook. Soak dried vegetables in an equal amount of water, 1 cup of dried vegetable to 1 cup of water, for 10 minutes or up to 2 hours until the vegetables are softened and have returned to their near fresh size. Uses. Drying already mashed and cooked veggies will give you all you need for instant mashed potatoes, mashed parsnips or squash, pumpkins, carrots for vegetable-based cream soups, breads, or pies. There are many possibilities and the results are delicious. These mashed dried veggies can be stored in flakes, sheets, or pieces, or powdered into a blender or food processor to create flavor-packed powders for soups, sauces, or smoothies. Combine an assortment of dried vegetables in the pot with stew meat and broth. You can also add already soaked beans, barley, and or rice. Add salt and season as you desire. Cook on low throughout the day. Toss shredded cabbage or zucchini into a meatloaf or ground beef dish. The cabbage needs hardly any moisture to rehydrate, so a little broth or meat juice in the dish will do. Put dried potato slices and dried diced onions in crock pots with broth and cream. Add dried or already cooked meat like chicken, leftover roast beef, or cubed ham. Use the same quantity of broth and cream as dried foods, plus a little more to make it saucy. Cook on low until potatoes are tender and season to taste. Soak dried tomato slices in the same quantity of water, then blend to make a tomato sauce. Add to a soup, stew, or spaghetti sauce. Use less water and you'll have tomato paste. Pumpkin pie or sweet potato pie. Reconstitute dried mashed pumpkin or sweet potato, then use in your favorite pie recipe. Veggie cream soup. Reconstitute dried mashed vegetables, carrots, squash, pumpkin. Add cream, milk, or broth to a soup consistency. Season to taste with salt, pepper, garlic, or other spices. Smoothies. Add green veggies, carrot or beet powder by the tablespoon to your favorite smoothie recipe.